Every 24 hours, the ground beneath you completes a full rotation. This spin is a massive kinetic engine, driving the distribution of our oceans, the flow of our weather, and the magnetic shield that holds our air in place. If the planet suddenly slams to a halt, that momentum has to go somewhere. The atmosphere keeps racing eastward at over 1,000 miles an hour, stripping the surface down to the bedrock. Right now, centrifugal force pulls our oceans toward the middle of the planet, creating a permanent bulge of water around the equator. Without the spin, that outward pull disappears. Gravity becomes the only force left, dragging trillions of tons of water away from the tropics and toward the poles. This migration drowns the northern and southern latitudes, while the equator emerges from the sea as a single, continuous equatorial megacontinent. The map is effectively split, two massive polar oceans, separated by a global ring of dry, high-altitude land. Beneath the surface, the geodynamo, the swirling molten core that generates our magnetic field, stalls. With its rotation relative to the sun halted, the planet enters a state of sun synchronization, transforming into an eyeball world. One hemisphere is baked in permanent, boiling daylight, while the other is locked in an eternal freeze. While the surface appears sterilized by radiation and extreme temperatures, this new map creates a series of isolated biological sanctuaries. The sun-facing side of the equatorial megacontinent is a desert of irradiated rock. No complex life can endure the constant flux of solar particles, but certain microorganisms treat this hostile environment as a playground. The bacterium Deinococcus radiodurans has survived doses of ionizing radiation 500 times higher than a human. When radiation shatters its DNA, specialized enzymes work around the clock, stitching the fragments back into a functional loop in less than a day. On the night side, where temperatures drop towards absolute zero, tardigrades enter a state called cryptobiosis. They expel almost all the water from their bodies and suspend their metabolism entirely, waiting out the freeze in a state of biological stasis. However, the most stable refuge exists miles beneath the new polar oceans. In the abyss, the conditions are shielded from the radiation and the thermal chaos of the surface. Around hydrothermal vents, life has no use for the sun. Instead, communities of giant tube worms and specialized bacteria use chemosynthesis, extracting energy from the minerals and volcanic heat spewing from the Earth's interior. By decoupling from solar energy entirely, these deep-sea ecosystems remain unaffected by the apocalyptic standstill occurring on the surface. The only habitable surface region is the terminator zone, a narrow twilight band between the scorching day and glacial night. But as Earth revolves around the sun, this ring constantly moves, traveling westward at roughly 4 kilometers per hour. To stay within the twilight, any surface life would have to become perpetually nomadic. Survival would mean a lifelong trek across the equatorial megacontinent, always keeping pace with the moving sun. Humanity's more likely path is to abandon the surface entirely. By moving underground, we can ignore the wind and radiation and focus on a single stationary energy source. Geothermal energy is the only resource that remains completely unaffected by the loss of rotation. It draws from the heat of the core, a reservoir of energy that will remain active for millions of centuries. This power becomes the foundation of a subterranean civilization, fueling the LED arrays needed for hydroponic farming and providing the heat to melt polar ice for drinking water. Survival no longer depends on a stable atmosphere or the day-night cycle. It depends on raw mechanical engineering and the planet's internal heat. Zooming out from our static Earth, we can compare our situation to the atmospheric realities of our neighbors. Mars is the ultimate cautionary example. Once its internal geodynamo stalled billions of years ago, its magnetic shield failed, and the solar wind was able to gradually strip away its atmosphere. But Venus suggests a magnetic field isn't the only protector. Despite having no internal geodynamo and a rotation slower than a human walk, its heavy gravity and a magnetic field induced by the solar wind itself have allowed it to retain a massive, crushing atmosphere. If the Earth stopped tomorrow, we wouldn't lose our air immediately. The killers would be the temperature extremes and the radiation flux, not a lack of oxygen. This redefines the Goldilocks zone. Habitability isn't just about being at the right distance from a star. It is about a planet's internal machinery and its ability to maintain dynamic momentum. From the DNA rebuilding microbes on the scorched surface to the geothermal cities beneath the ice, these pockets of endurance show that survival is possible even when the planetary engine fails. Without centrifugal force holding water at the equator, gravity takes over, pulling the oceans away from the tropics and toward the poles. As the water recedes, it reveals an expansive equatorial megacontinent, flanked by two deep, isolated polar oceans. The planetary blender has stopped. Earth is no longer a unified, mixed biosphere, but a static world of isolated extremes where standard life cannot persist. Because the stationary Earth still revolves around the sun, a single day now lasts an entire year. One side of the planet bakes under 6 months of unrelenting sunlight, while the other plunges into a 6-month deep freeze. The surface faces an invisible threat as well. Without rotation, the geodynamo in the molten core collapses, stripping away the magnetic field and bathing the surface in raw solar radiation. Survival here requires extreme biology. The bacterium Deinococcus radiodurans withstands 5,000 grays of radiation by actively stitching its shattered genome back together. On the frozen night side, tardigrades use a different strategy. They endure the vacuum-like cold by entering cryptobiosis, completely suspending their metabolism until the environment shifts. But the absolute safest location on this paralyzed planet isn't on the surface at all. It is at the very bottom of the newly formed polar oceans. Under miles of seawater, life is protected by an impenetrable physical shield. This water column blocks out surface radiation and temperature swings entirely. Down in the abyss, these ecosystems rely on the Earth's internal geothermal heat rather than the sun. Look at the dense mineral plumes erupting from this deep-sea chimney. These hydrothermal vents provide energy to sustain life in total darkness. Clustered around them are giant tube worms, using chemosynthesis to convert toxic minerals into energy, supporting a sunless food web. These deep-sea communities prove that life can decouple from the sun entirely, provided it has a reliable geologic engine and adequate shielding. For complex animals that cannot survive in the abyss, there is only one refuge left on the surface: the terminator zone. This is the narrow twilight band where scorching heat meets glacial cold, keeping the climate potentially habitable. But there is a catch. As Earth orbits the sun, this habitable band slowly creeps across the surface. At the equator, this moving zone travels at a steady pace of roughly 4.5 kilometers per hour, about the speed of a brisk walk. To survive here, complex life must become entirely nomadic. Humans and animals would be forced into a perpetual westward migration to stay within the twilight. This existence has strict physical boundaries. Stopping to rest for too long means being incinerated by encroaching dawn or freezing in the advancing sunset. In the narrow terminator zone, the possibility of permanent civilization completely vanishes, replaced by a grueling, never-ending physical marathon. A stationary Earth is a world of fractures. It is a planet dominated by isolated extremes, deep-sea holdouts, and a few specialized microbes. Rely on this rotation for a predictable day-night cycle, but its reach extends to every corner of the planetary environment. This spin is the essential regulator that distributes heat and water and magnetic protection across the globe. Without this continuous rotation, a lush, interconnected biosphere dies. Survival stops being the default state and becomes a brutal, highly specialized